It's just a city. You'll get used to watching them fall.
Hello and welcome to IAYTD. I just finished watching The Defenders Season 1, so I didn't want to waste any time, so I'm going to give you my spoiler-free thoughts, which includes what worked, what didn't work. Then I'm going to give you a score, and then I'm going to have some spoiler thoughts at the very end if you've already finished it and you want to stick around for it. So let's dive into what worked. The Defenders is really about these four characters coming together, and characters that we've spent a lot of time with, like 13 hours at least with, and now they're coming together. So the best part of the show is hands down their interactions and seeing them talk and engage and fight together, and these different dynamics and allusions to either what happened in the comic books, so potential pairings or team-ups, or new surprising dynamics. So that is hands down the coolest part of this. The fight scenes are great, but they're surprisingly rare. There's a couple big ones, but none of them really impressed me the way that Daredevil's hallway scenes. Those scenes are still the coolest fight scenes in this Netflix world. My favorite one in The Defenders comes pretty early. I think it's episode 3. And then after that, it's kind of downhill. There's some cool stuff, but it peaks pretty early. I think the villains are really cool in this show. I think Sigourney Weaver is great, but really it's about the Hand. It takes some time for us to really learn about what they're trying to do, and their motivations maybe aren't clear. But there are some leaders in the Hand that are really cool. That it's not just Sigourney Weaver. There's some other folks, some that we're familiar with and some that we're not familiar with, that are interesting and scary and some really cool moments. But as a whole, the Hand, you don't really get a grip on what they're trying to do, or when you think back and you're like, well, why then were they trying to do that? So that muddies the conclusion a little bit if you're thinking about it too hard. So maybe you shouldn't. So I already talked about what didn't work a little bit, that the fight scenes were rare and not always great, but they were never bad. And then the villains, the Hand, cool, but didn't quite understand it. So the ending was a little anticlimactic for me, a little unsatisfying. There's also, we're trying to get everyone back to their own shows at the end of this, and so it feels a little bit like Lord of the Rings, that we have all these endings trying to put people back in the right directions. So that lessens the impact a little bit, but luckily this is a quick binge at only 8 episodes. You're gonna love it. Especially if you're already a fan of the shows, there's no reason for you not to love this. So overall, I had a really good time with The Defenders. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. So now I want to go into more detail, so I'm going to put up a spoiler warning. So there's a few things I want to talk about here that spoil it. So the big thing is, in the end, you think Daredevil dies, and I was like, they can't be doing this. But they haven't, I don't think, announced a season 3 of Daredevil, so I was like, they could. You know, like, they have enough other shows, they could kill Daredevil, and I was like, oh my god. But then they didn't. So now I'm anticipating they're going to do something like, maybe like the Shadowland arc, you know, where maybe he survived, but because he was there with all of that dragon carcass energy, that maybe he brought something back with him, you know, and he's kind of has this demon in him, or he's tainted in a way. So making almost Daredevil the villain of the next, either the next Daredevil season or the next Defenders series would be really interesting. But I'm kind of glad they showed us that he wasn't dead, because I didn't really feel the impact. And so I think if they led us to believe that he was dead and I didn't feel it, I would have been really disappointed. So at least they curbed that and they said, he's alive. He's just somewhere else. Who knows where. And in terms of kind of where people are going next, I think Colleen and Misty had some great moments, and Misty lost the arm finally, which was kind of teased in Luke Cage, that like she almost lost her arm. Now she did, so that'd be great to see a Daughters of the Dragon team up, those two kicking ass, taking names. That'd be awesome. We also got to see a lot of Luke Cage and Iron Fist and their dynamics and their unwillingness to be a team. And so kind of leading up to what could be a Heroes for Hire show, that would be awesome. I did think that Iron Fist was more useful and interesting in the Defenders than he was in his unique show, in his individual show. So that was good. But they did kind of take him off the table for a while. And maybe that's when the show started to maybe go downhill for me, was when he became the MacGuffin, right? The thing that they needed. And so he wasn't a warrior anymore. He was being drug around and used like a tool. And that kind of lessened it for me, when he's supposed to be the most formidable warrior to defeat the Hand, and he's just being kind of hauled around. Didn't love that bit a lot. But otherwise, a lot of really cool stuff here. The fight scenes, like I said, were cool. Seeing them, you know, in their dynamics, you know, so it'd be like Luke Cage, you know, blocking Iron Fist from the bullets, and then Iron Fist would do something. Like, their dynamics were really cool, and it reminded me of seeing Avengers for the first time, when you see how they interact. You know, when Iron Man shoots a blast that bounces off Captain America's shield, and you're like, that's really cool. There were a few moments like that here, but the fights overall were fine, but the end fight I was a little disappointed by. Didn't really feel it. I thought we were going to see Punisher at some point, because they did allude to him in one of the trailers for this season, and I was like, where is he? That didn't happen. But we got almost everyone else. All the other supporting characters got something to do. So that's really all my spoiler thoughts. Comment below if you're going to talk spoilers. Maybe put spoiler in the header before you dive into it. But let me know, what did you think of Defenders Season 1? How many out of 5 would you give it? Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching.
The war for New York, it's over.